just a little bit of time, letting this catch up. And it looks like we are indeed live. It's working. Well, hello everyone, and a happy Monday to you, and welcome back to another painting party or miniature Monday. We'll get the name figured out here at the Adventurers Pack. I'm really excited for today. So we've already had our bit. We're gonna finish up working on our rock golem here. This should be the final episode. We'll get all of the details done. But we've gotten to break out our airbrush over here. You're not able to see it, it's off camera, but I've got my little brush here ready to go. You'll probably hear the engine going every so often, because we are going to be adding some magical detail effects. Specifically, we're going to be adding some eyes to this creature. So with that, let's go ahead and just jump right on in. Alrighty, so we've got our rock golem. He has been based, he has been shaded, he has been highlighted, and now we get to add the final details onto him. So to get these eye effects, the creature doesn't really have eyes to begin with. So we really have to kind of create our own, which is, again, the wonderful thing about painting. If there is not something, but you want something, you can add it in. And since we're going to be adding a very light color onto this, we're actually going to start with a matte white. So I'm going to be using Army Painter's matte white. Let me see if I can get this here. Whoop, there we go. Army Painter's matte white. Very good color. Just, I mean, it's just a basic white, which is really all we need. When we airbrush a color on top of this, we really want it to pop, and so that's what this white is going to allow us to do. All right. Now I'm going to want to get as fine-tipped of a brush as I can on this. And to make sure that this is going exactly where I want it to go, I'm actually going to pop an additional light on here. So, you know, get ready to be blinded. Bow! There we go. So, I think I've already figured out that I want to add a little bit of a detail into this little recess and this recess. I mean, obviously those look like that's where eyes would go. So, let's get started and see what we can come up with. We're just gonna go right on in. And it's okay if it's somewhat big. I'm okay with that, because what that's really gonna do is let there be more place for this color that we're going to be adding in on top of it to effect. Now it does look like I maybe added a little bit more than I would want. Don't know if you can see that. Yeah, he looks a little doofy right now. So I'm just going to go in with my brush and just remove some of that paint. It's still wet, so we can go in and we can get it. There we go. Yeah, that's looking good. Okay, so right now, yeah, he's gonna look a little doofy, but we're getting some detail there. I mean, even just that, I think you could leave that and it would be interesting. But I told you we were gonna break out the airbrush. I've been excited to do so. So let's do that. Let's get a crash course in airbrushing really quick. Now, one of the things that I do enjoy about pretty much all of these paints, they're not airbrush ready paints, but they can be used with an airbrush. This is just a Master Series airbrush. It's nothing special. It's, I mean, if anything, it's kind of a beginner's airbrush. Now, just to be clear, I am a beginner airbrusher. I'm by no means am trying to say that I am a professional airbrusher or anything like that. This is just what I do, so take that with a grain of salt. So we've got this paint reservoir here up at the top, and that's where we're going to be putting in our color. Now, I think it would look really cool if we give this guy this thing called Toxic Mist. Yeah, there we go. My camera will focus eventually, right? So it's going to have this lovely, lovely blue, but almost energetic blue. It's like it's got electricity flowing through it. I'm a big fan of this color. So for this, we're going to go ahead, I'm going to shake it up. And before putting that in, we're actually going to take some paint thinner, a thinning medium, specifically for airbrushes. So this is something that you can pick up in any craft store that has painting goods, but it's a medium that's just going to thin down whatever paint we put in here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start by putting in a little bit of that, because I don't want the paint to go in immediately. Now we're going to go in with our Toxic Mist. And we're just going to put a little bit in. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. About 5 drops worth. Another great thing about airbrushing is that it really will get your paint. It extends the life of your paint drastically. I mean, heck, that might even be way too little. Now, the way that we mix up the paint once it's inside of here, because obviously we've just put in a layer of thinner and then a layer of paint, and if I were to try and airbrush immediately, we would just get thinner coming out, and then eventually the paint would kind of mix in. So what we do is we close up the nozzle here by putting our finger over it, and we let some air go through. And you can see in there that the paint begins to bubble up. And that is going to mix up our paint. You know what? I should get some more paint in there. I should stop being stingy with my stuff. Come on, let's be honest. So there we go. There we go. Maybe we'll use some of this in other areas of him to show magical effects. So we're going to mix up this paint. Now you can see it bubbling in there. And what I'm going to do so I don't make a mess is I'm going to go ahead and put the cap on top to let it mix up in there. Shush. We're going to get this to a consistency of about milk. With that, that's really going to let it flow through our airbrush nicely. You can see kind of some of it pooling up over the top here. Looks to be like a pretty good consistency coming out. Yeah, okay. So let's go ahead and wipe some of that away. Always having paper towels on hand because you're going to make a mess. It's paint. That is looking pretty good. It's still looking a little thick down there. So let's go ahead with our brush, just get in there, mix things up a bit. Oh, let me actually bring this to a place that you can see what I'm doing. Okay. So it's looking like it's generally the right consistency. I just want to make sure that there's no clogs up by the needle itself. That's looking pretty good. So what we're going to do here now, before we go straight on to the model, I want to make sure that we're getting a proper consistency. So we're going to take a little bit of black paper here. And you can see in the past I've used this to, let me take this light down. You can see that in the past that I've used this to test some airbrushing effects on. So what I'm going to do now is just bring this down and make sure that a good amount is coming out. There we go. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. Okay, so I can tell properly. Looks like it might be coming down a little thick. Let's, yeah. Now, as far as control with an airbrush goes, for anyone who's never used one before, you can get very thick shading areas, or you can get very detailed lines. And the way that you control that is, oh, thank you, Ben. The way that you can control that is by the distance of the airbrush. So the closer I am to the paper or the model, the more detailed the line is going to be. The farther away that I am, the wider of a radius we're going to get. Now this is a dual action airbrush, so in addition to just being able to push down on the button and get air flowing, the pushing down on the button just gets the air flowing. To get paint flowing, I actually pull back on the trigger here. and the farther back you pull, the more paint goes through. So let's go ahead and make sure. Yeah, this is flowing to a degree that I like. So I think it's time to go in with our mini. So we've got those eyes going on. We're gonna see what we can do here. All right, here we go. You may be able to tell by the sound I'm timid when using my airbrush. Hold on. Because again, A, I'm not excellent at it, and B, this isn't the best airbrush. So you definitely do get what you pay for when it comes to these. Ooh. That is lovely. Let me make sure that you can see the detail of what has just happened there. So, whoop, there we go. So now his eyes have got this glowing blue shading effect going along, so that the glow kind of pops out from his eyes. I'm really liking what that has done. Yeah. And it was a lot of build-up for just that initial effect. You know what? Let's not overdo it, but let's add some of that magic into other areas of him. We've got time. Specifically, I'm thinking maybe along these black stones that are in him. I think that these are the stones that are creating his power. So maybe kind of where the stones meet. It's a very subtle effect. Oh no, that's not a very subtle effect at all. And that comes from twitching. Twitching with my finger on the brush. Hold on, let me fix that up. There. But you know, it does add a nice little highlight to that color. So let's just add a short little blast to different areas of him. Ooh. Come on. And then we'll get this upper area here. Yeah. And with airbrushing, it's definitely lots of layering work. You know, it's not, you don't put down one heavy layer and then you're good to go. It's you build up over time, little by little by little. And there was a very subtle effect that we added into those rocks, but I think I don't want to overdo it, and I want that to be our level here. Let me see here 1 minute. So yeah. You know, I think he is looking great. He might be at a place where now we just need to seal him. This is where it comes down to being a very difficult call of at what point is your model done. And, you know, you could keep adding more and more onto it. and eventually it's going to get to a place that's very muddled. I think for this guy, with this idea of us wanting to keep him somewhat simple, this is a good place for him. All that's left to do is to seal him. And so to seal him, we're not going to be able to do that on camera because you do need a rattle can to do that, or at least I use a rattle can. You can use paints in an airbrush to put a sealant over this guy, or any model. But I prefer just a typical rattle can, take it outside, spray it down, or any well-ventilated area. That's actually another quick note I should say about using an airbrush. You want to make sure you're in a decently ventilated area. It is a bit safer to use an airbrush indoors. There's not as many fumes, but you do want to still make sure that you're careful about it. So yeah, so this guy will get sealed, and then he will go to terrorize my players on the table. So yeah, I thank you all so much for being a part of this journey of making this this rock golem. I know that we started in a place that some of you may not be able to see all of the videos, but I hope that you've enjoyed the pieces that you were able to see. Quick thing that I do want to say is, this has been an experiment, doing this live on YouTube, and it has been a lot of fun, but I believe that our formatting for this is going to change. I am still planning on updating videos every Monday to be having to do with models, with miniatures, specifically all of the Dungeons and Dragons minis that I use. It's still going to be me painting and me talking about the paints and the techniques that I'm using, but I think as opposed to doing them live, we are going to transition into more of a pre-recorded and uploaded. We will still have the schedule every Monday, as I said, but the thing that I noticed is that with the camera work and everything that we've been able to get, I'm not able to show the detail that I want to show. And so the quality of the videos isn't coming out to the quality that I particularly want to put out into the world. Which is why I want to move into a more pre-recorded situation. That being said, my channel here that I'm a part of, this Adventures Pack Adventure. Yeah, I can use my words. The thing that is Adventures Pack, we are planning on having a live painting show. So if that is something that interests you, please let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this, please give the video a like, give us a subscribe. It means the world to us. And yeah, so with that being said, we will see you next Monday with the next miniature painting. So thank you again so much. And now it's the awkward time while I figure out a proper transition as to how to get out of here. So goodbye, goodbye, bye-bye, goodbye, goodbye.